Hi, Michael Jamin. So recently, I had a post that talked about why I think it's so helpful for new writers to write personal essays. And the reason is you're mining stories from your own life. So you're just taking something that happened from you, some small little thing, and turning it into a story. And because it really happened, you don't have to create characters and you don't have to come up with a plot. It already happened. So you're removing already the two biggest obstacles when it comes to writing something, a good story, right? So now you just have to get it out of your head and write it in engaging ways so that people want to, find out what happens next. So I talked about that. Then Laura Godler had a question. It was such a good question. I gave it a purple card. And she wrote, regarding personal essays, how, other than channeling Robert Altman, can you weave the lot of these stories into a movie with only a few characters and one storyline? Okay, so first of all, I probably wouldn't turn it into one giant movie because with the exception of indie movies, which I really know very little about, commercial movies, they don't make those movies anymore. Okay, the movies that they make now are Transformers, and they make Jurassic Park and all those Marvel superhero movies. They don't make small movies, character-based movies. They just don't. So no one's going to buy that. It's sad, but they don't. So all that work, all that really good character study has migrated to television and Netflix and Amazon and streaming services. And that's where all the good creative work is done. So those are mostly, well, for the most part, those are episodic. So it would be very easy to turn any of my work, I think, into a television show. And if you can go on michaeljamin.com and you can read any of these personal essays. I've published maybe about 10 of them and the rest I'm saving for my book, but you'll see how they're just small little moments from my life, and that's interesting. So I'm not really because I examined something small, the specifics happen to me, but the emotions happen to all of us. I'm not telling my story. The details are mine, but I'm not telling my story. I'm really telling our story. I'm making it relatable and universal. And you can go again, on michaeljamin.com. You can read a bunch of them for free to get an idea and then I would transform that. My goal right now is not to do that. I just want to get this book out. But then I talked about in my course how I would transform one of those stories into either a short or an episode of television, and I really break it down. I break it down. I called the module Mining Your Life for Stories. It actually turned out, I think, pretty well because we all have stories in us, and that's what's interesting. That's way more interesting than coming up with stuff that you make up. Just if you can be truthful, that's way more interesting, I think. And so that's what I would do. I would probably sell it as into a streamer, and it would be episodic the way The Wonder Years was, with a narrator, or like Princess Bride, where it's told from the point of view of Grandpa telling his grandson the story of his life, and then flashing back. And so when I write these stories, I break them down. I basically break them down. Oh, I'm sorry, Board. I didn't mean to hit you, Board. That's a late apology. I break them down into four groups when I'm writing. My childhood, college years, because I think the college years are so formative. And then my post-college years, where I was like out into the real world and like, before I made it. And I was like, ugh, so that's really interesting. All that struggle is really interesting. And then, of course, adulthood, raising children and, watching your parents get older, all that stuff is something we all can relate to. And so that's what I would do. I'd probably break it down like that. I'd also, but you're different. You're in a different boat. So I can pitch this to Amazon, I don't know, probably next month if I really wanted to, but I'm not working on that right now. You're in a different boat. If I were you, I would start learning how to write personal essays, and then I would consider shooting it as a short, just to get the word out there, just to get to make a splash. Put it on YouTube, put it on in a film festival. Then you have a calling card. You could send it to agents and managers and industry people to get more work, and say, look what I would do. And I wouldn't spend a lot of money. For sure, I would spend no second mortgage on your house. I wouldn't cash in your IRA. Forget about that. I've done projects in the past, and those are also on my website, where I've spent literally $1,400 for one of the cheaper ones. So how did I do it? Well, I hired high school kids. You could hire college film students as well. These guys will work for free because they're real. They just need, they want to build up their resume. For the high school kids, all of them would have worked for free. They said they would have worked, and I wanted to pay them. So I wound up paying each of them, I think around $200 for a couple day or two. I prefer to pay, and that's how I wound up with $1,400. Most of that money was salary, which is only a couple $100, and then you got to buy everyone lunch, pizza, right? And you have snacks on set so people don't get cranky. And I rented only a couple of things, but that was not a lot of money. One of the things I bought a cake. It was a prop that was $40. Like, oh, $40. But and that run me, and of course my editor, I paid him a little bit more because he had to work on it a lot more. But that was $1,400. And anyone, as long as the script is good, people will come out of the woodwork to be in your project. But the script has to be good. The writing has to be good. And the acting, of course, you have to hire good actors. But again, those people work for free. Actors will work for pennies. And you can audition and find people just like that and then shoot it. The quality, you want to make sure you have good sound. If people can't hear your project, that's almost more important than how it looks. You could shoot it on an iPhone. A lot of times if you hire somebody, even a young kid, they'll have equipment that's even better. And so you could shoot on that, and then you maybe give them another $25. But again, I like to pay people because then you can order them around. You can say, hey, you're not doing me a favor. Here, I'm paying you. Even though I'm not paying you a lot, get up and just get back to work. So I find that actually paying people actually works out better for everyone. So $1,400 is not a lot of money to invest in. That's not going to, even if you're struggling, you can save that 6 months or a year. You can put that together. But again, the important part is the script. I don't care how good it looks or how bad it looks. If the script is not compelling, it's not going to do anything for you. You're going to have good actors, of course, as well. But the lighting is really not that important. I did a show a couple of years ago called Marin. It was really low budget. My partner and I ran it. Really, really low budget. It was so low budget, people thought we couldn't get it done. And we had to shoot it real fast. And there are times where the scenes were not that well lit. The blocking was, we didn't get all the shots that we wanted. We had to shoot it in a wide because we didn't have enough time to go in for close-ups. And guess what? No one cares. The reviews were always glowing on that show. The reviews were never like, hey, the camera was shaking in this shot. As long as someone's thumb was in front of the lens, we're good. We're good. So that's why the writing is key. The writing is critical. That's what and of course that's what I talk about in the course is basically how to. Again, I had that one module is how to mine your life for stories because we all have them. You just need to learn how to pull it out. So if you want, I believe that story is published still as an example of a bunch of stories on my site. You could read and turn into something, into a movie or a feature or even a short or an episode of television. The one I'm thinking of was called A Paper Orchestra. And again, all these are true. True stories, and I just typed them up. Making it a little artful. If I wanted to, I suppose if I wanted to get into the world of indie features, which I don't, I know there's a couple I could transform into stretch out. But to answer Laura's question, to go a little more in depth, when she says, how do you do this with only a few characters? Well, you only want a few characters. Like think about any television show. You only want to have 4 or 5, 6 characters tops. You don't want to have all these things. And I wouldn't have all these streaming, crossing storylines. I would just pick one and just do one simple. Do one before creating the great American novel. How about writing the good American novel? Start something. You don't have to be so ambitious. You don't have to have multiple crossing storylines. Just do one and tell it right. And then she says, yeah, with only a few characters. Yeah, that's kind of how I do it. So there are a couple, I think I was skipping around here, that I could turn into a feature if that interested me. And so I just wouldn't rush all those moments. I would still block everything in Act 1, 2, and 3, which is how the story is told. But I would just take my time with some more of those moments. And then maybe I would weave in what we call a B story. So I have an A story, which is the main plot. And then maybe weave in some smaller B story to involve a couple other characters just to fill it out. But again, I talk about this in the course as well. I do a segment on Amelie, which is one of my favorite movies. Just a beautiful, beautiful movie. And it's not a difficult story to tell. It was actually a very simple story, but the execution was brilliant. So I always say, don't try to tell crazy, complicated stories. The best stories, I find, are simple. They're just executed brilliantly. And Amelie is a great example. And I did a whole case study in Amelie because I was like, let's talk about this great movie. And so occasionally I do that in the course as well. If you want to learn more, just click on the link, and I can send you. That's true. I send you 3 free lessons about story, how I approach how I think about storybook and how I approach them, and that'll be helpful as well. And you can click on that on the website. All right, hope that helps. Anybody have any more questions? Send it along. Okay, good luck.